It was an eerie silence that surrounded the detention center. Orbiting close to a black hole, the human prisoners knew they were as far from salvation as possible. The cold metal walls of the alien facility pressed down on them like a suffocating weight. For the prisoners, the reality of their situation was as cruel as the dark void outside their cell. Captured, tortured, and left to break. Private Alex Bonner had been through more than any human should ever endure. He could hear the sounds of his fellow soldiers in agony, their screams echoing down the narrow, sterile halls. The aliens had caught them during a desperate mission to protect their homeworld, and now they were nothing more than pawns in the hands of their captors. The Galactic Council's alien forces had made one critical mistake. They underestimated humans. Bonner's hands were bound to a cold metal chair, his body battered, his mind sharp with fury. He had seen his comrades tortured in ways no one should ever witness. The aliens' methods were sophisticated, cruel, and designed to break every ounce of human spirit. The shock devices sent surges of pain coursing through his body, making his muscles seize and his bones ache with each jolting shock. The nerve disruptors made his body feel like it was being ripped apart from the inside out, and the pain amplifiers magnified every wound, every injury, 1,000 times over. But despite it all, there was one thing the aliens had failed to account for: human resilience. Bonner's eyes, burning with anger, locked on the alien officer standing in front of him. The officer, a tall, reptilian creature named General Tyron, observed him with a cold, calculating gaze. The aliens were methodical, using every tool at their disposal to break the human prisoners. But in Bonner's eyes, Tyron saw something unexpected: defiance. The aliens had expected their prisoners to break under the immense pressure, to beg for mercy, but all Bonner showed was hatred, a burning desire for revenge. And that, more than anything, unsettled them. The aliens' tactics were ruthless. They believed that through pain and fear, they could crush the human will. But they didn't understand that humans could endure. They didn't realize that there was a line the aliens couldn't cross, an instinct that lived within every human, an instinct to fight, to survive, to never give up. For every moment of agony, the fire of resistance burned brighter inside Bonner. In another part of the facility, an alien scientist, Dr. Varish, stood in front of a holographic display, his cold, emotionless face illuminated by the bright blue lights of the data screens. He was analyzing Bonner's responses, meticulously studying the psychological and physical toll of the torture. Dr. Varish had been tasked with testing the limits of human endurance, trying to figure out how far they could push before the prisoners completely broke. He was convinced that humans, despite their strength and intelligence, were still just fragile beings when compared to the superior alien species of the Galactic Council. But Varish had made a critical mistake. He hadn't studied human resolve. Bonner's mind, however, was focused on one thing only: escape. His body may have been battered and broken, but his mind was still clear. Every moment of torture, every shock, every burst of pain, it all served as a reminder of why he couldn't give up. He had a plan, a chance, even if it seemed impossible. Bonner had been carefully observing the guards, waiting for the perfect moment to act. And that moment was almost here. As he endured the latest round of experiments, something caught his attention. One of the guards, an alien whose features were hidden behind an advanced energy shield, was acting strange. Bonner's sharp eyes caught the subtle flicker of malfunction in the guard's eye-driven weapon system. For a brief second, the shield flickered, revealing a flaw. The guard had no idea that his weapon was malfunctioning. That small flaw, something that would seem insignificant to most, was the crack in the armor that Bonner had been waiting for. Bonner's heart raced, but his face remained expressionless. He couldn't show any sign of hope. Not yet. The aliens had been watching him closely, monitoring his every movement. Any slip-up could mean more pain, more suffering. But he had to act fast. The chance to escape was right in front of him, and Bonner wasn't about to waste it. He had already started to plan his escape during the countless hours of pain. had studied every guard's movements, every detail of the alien technology, every possible vulnerability. The AI-driven weapons, the energy shields, even the security systems, he had memorized them all. The flaw in the guard's shield was just the first step in a dangerous game. The malfunction might be small, but it was enough to exploit, enough to give him the opportunity he needed to break free. In the moments before the guard realized his mistake, Bonner began to move. He carefully flexed his muscles, resisting the sharp pangs of pain, preparing for the burst of action that would follow. With a quick motion, he reached for the alien guard's malfunctioning weapon and grabbed it. The guard's confusion turned to shock as Bonner disarmed him and used the weapon to break free from his restraints. The sound of alarms blared through the facility as Bonner triggered a security override, his heart pounding in his chest. The door to his cell slammed open, and he moved with purpose, each step fueled by the need to survive, to escape, and to take revenge on the aliens who had tortured him. But Bonner knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would not let him go without a fight. As he sprinted through the cold metal halls of the facility, he could hear the sounds of alien soldiers mobilizing, their heavy footsteps echoing through the corridors. They would stop at nothing to recapture him, but Bonner was ready. The war had only just begun. Bonner's heart raced as he dashed through the narrow hallways, the sharp clang of his boots on the cold metal floor echoing through the dimly lit facility. His mind was focused, calculating the next move. He had just escaped his cell, but that was only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead. He couldn't do it alone, not against the sheer number of aliens guarding the complex. But he wasn't alone, not anymore. As Bonner sprinted through the twisting corridors, he passed by other cells where human prisoners were still held captive. Most were unconscious from the torture, their bodies broken, but Bonner could see the faint spark of hope in their eyes. He knew they had been waiting for someone, anyone, to break free and show them that escape was possible. It was a long shot, but Bonner was the right man for the job. He wasn't just a soldier, he was a leader. He had the strength, the will, and the intelligence to bring his team out of this hellhole. His mind raced as he thought of the prisoners still locked in the depths of the alien prison. They were his responsibility, and he wouldn't leave anyone behind. Bonner found his way to the central command hub, a massive high-tech control room that was surrounded by layers of security. Behind thick, transparent walls, monitors flashed with images of other areas of the complex. This was where the aliens coordinated everything. From here, they tracked the movements of the prisoners, their vital signs, and any sign of rebellion. It was also where they kept the AI hub, the heart of their security system. As Bonner watched the flickering screens, an idea began to form. He needed to get to the AI hub, but the guards and drones were too numerous. That's when it hit him. The AI hub was the key to everything. If he could hack into the system, he could disable the security features and give himself and the other prisoners a fighting chance. Bonner activated his comm device, sending a silent signal to the other prisoners. He had to act quickly. Time was running out, and the alien soldiers were closing in. Soon, the entire facility would be on high alert. He needed to strike before the aliens could react. The prisoners who had been captured alongside him, Soldiers Henson, Diaz, and Cooper, had all been through the same hellish treatment, but Bonner knew they had the skills to help him pull off the impossible. They had to be the ones to take down the AI hub and shut down the security systems that kept them in chains. Bonner made his way to a storage area where the prisoners had been left to rot. There, he found his team huddled together, looking weak but alive. They had been brutalized, tortured, and left to suffer, but the moment they saw Bonner, their faces lit up with hope. He had made it out. If he could escape, then so could they. Without wasting time, Bonner quickly laid out his plan. "The AI hub is our way out," he said, his voice steady, despite the fear pulsing in his chest. "We need to disable their security systems. We're going to use cloaking devices to get past their guards. You follow my lead, and we'll make it out of here. Together." The team nodded. They were battered, but the fire in their eyes matched Bonner's. They had been through the worst of it, but this was their chance for vengeance. They weren't just fighting for their freedom anymore. They were fighting for each other, for survival, and for revenge against the alien invaders who thought they could crush humanity's spirit. The action-packed sequence began. Bonner led the way, using the cloaking devices to become invisible to the alien guards. The technology was far from perfect, glitching occasionally and leaving them vulnerable. But it was their only option. As they moved through the corridors, Bonner's mind stayed sharp, his eyes constantly scanning for any sign of danger. The slightest sound could alert the aliens, but Bonner was a seasoned soldier. He knew how to move silently, how to read the environment, and how to lead his team under pressure. The closer they got to the AI hub, the more intense the tension became. Security robots and AI-controlled drones buzzed past, their sensors scanning the area for any anomalies. Bonner's heart skipped a beat when one of the drones hovered nearby, its red, glowing eyes scanning the area. He froze, holding his breath, praying the drone wouldn't detect them. A tense moment passed. The drone continued on its path, unaware of the humans hiding just a few feet away. Bonner breathed a sigh of relief but didn't dare relax. The AI-driven security systems were ruthless, and one slip-up would be fatal. As they reached the heart of the facility, Bonner's hand tightened around the device that would allow him to hack into the alien security network. This was it, their last chance. He had to get through this door, disable the system, and give his team the window they needed to escape. With a quick motion, he inserted a small data chip into the access panel. The hacking sequence began, and the tension in the air grew heavier with each passing second. Suddenly, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed down the corridor. Bonner's eyes widened. They had only seconds before the aliens found them. The team moved quickly to hide in the shadows, hoping their cloaking devices would mask their presence. The door to the AI hub started to open. It was now or never. Bonner's fingers flew over the console, bypassing the security codes and cracking the alien encryption. He could feel the sweat trickling down his face, the pressure mounting. The hum of the system echoed in his ears as he neared the final steps of the hack. Almost there, Bonner whispered under his breath, his heart pounding with anticipation. He couldn't let the aliens win. Not after everything they had done. Not after everything his team had been through. He had to finish this. With a final, decisive keystroke, the system went dark. The hum of the AI hub died, and the entire security grid went offline. Bonner smiled with satisfaction. It had worked. The facility's defense systems were down. The aliens had no idea what was coming. But the moment of victory was short-lived. The sound of alarm bells began to blare, echoing throughout the facility. The aliens had realized something was wrong. They would be coming for them, and they would come fast. Bonner turned to his team, a fierce look of determination in his eyes. "This is our chance," he said. "We move out now, or we don't get another shot." As the team rushed toward the exit, their cloaking devices still active, they could hear the sounds of chaos erupting behind them. The aliens were scrambling, trying to figure out what had happened. But Bonner knew they had no time to waste. Every second counted. They were no longer prisoners. They were fighters. And they were about to turn the tables on their captors. The warship was massive, far beyond anything Bonner had ever seen before. It dwarfed the alien prison facility that had held him captive. Now, as he and his team boarded the sleek, metallic vessel, a sense of exhilaration and revenge surged through his veins. This was it. No turning back. Bonner had dreamed of this moment for what felt like a lifetime. Revenge on the aliens who had tortured him and his comrades. Revenge for the fallen soldiers who had given their lives. They would pay, and Bonner would make sure of it. "Everyone ready?" Bonner asked his team, his voice calm yet laced with determination. "We're ready, sir," responded Henson, his face set in a grim line, his hand tightly gripping the weapon at his side. Cooper and Diaz nodded silently, their expressions hardened. They had all been through hell, And now they were going to make sure the aliens knew exactly who they were messing with. Bonner could feel the adrenaline surging through his body. They were about to do something no one thought possible: take down an entire alien warship with nothing but their human ingenuity and sheer willpower. The stakes couldn't have been higher. They weren't just fighting for survival now. They were fighting for justice. The ship's atmosphere was tense as Bonner and his team navigated through the labyrinth of corridors, using their cloaking devices to remain hidden. Every step they took was a step closer to the heart of the enemy ship, where they would face the aliens in a final battle for freedom. The ship's eye-controlled weapons hummed to life as they approached the heart of the vessel, a clear sign that the aliens were aware of the breach. But Bonner was not concerned. The humans had already proven their resourcefulness. They were no longer prisoners. They were warriors. And the time had come for the tide to turn. As they reached the central command room, they were met with a barrage of laser fire from automated turrets. The aliens were ready for them, but they hadn't anticipated the humans' cunning. Bonner signaled for the team to spread out and take cover as they returned fire with their high-tech weapons. The noise was deafening. Blasts of energy, the whirring of laser beams, and the impact of explosions all blended into a cacophony of chaos. Henson took the lead, using his experience with advanced weaponry to disable the turrets with expert precision. His aim was deadly, and with each shot, he took down another automated defense system. The rest of the team followed suit, their weapons flashing as they engaged the alien forces. The aliens fought back fiercely, but they were disorganized and unprepared for the level of human ingenuity on display. Bonner could see the fear in their eyes as they realized they were up against more than just prisoners. They were up against soldiers who had survived hell and returned stronger. The battle raged on, close-quarters combat blending with the high-tech warfare as Bonner and his team systematically dismantled the alien defenses. But it wasn't just about the fight. It was about sending a message. The humans were no longer afraid. They were in control now, and the aliens would feel the weight of their fury. In the midst of the chaos, Bonner found himself face to face with an alien commander, tall, armored, and imposing. The creature snarled at him, its elongated fingers reaching for the weapon at its side. Bonner didn't hesitate. With a quick motion, he fired, sending a powerful blast straight into the alien's chest. The creature collapsed, and for a brief moment, Bonner felt a rush of victory. But it was short-lived. From the corner of his eye, Bonner saw one of his own team members, Cooper, taking cover behind a nearby column. But as the battle intensified, an alien soldier managed to slip past the defenses. In an instant, Cooper was caught in a deadly crossfire. Bonner watched in horror as his comrade was struck by a blast, sending him crashing to the ground. "No!" Bonner shouted, his voice filled with fury and disbelief. He rushed to Cooper's side, but it was too late. The soldier's body lay still, blood pooling around him. It was a devastating blow, one that cut deeper than any wound. Cooper had been like a brother to Bonner, and losing him in the midst of this fight only fueled his rage. The pain of losing a teammate was something Bonner had experienced before, but this time it felt different. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about honoring the sacrifices made, not just by Cooper, but by all the soldiers who had fallen. Bonner's spirit burned brighter than ever, and he knew that the alien forces would pay for what they had done. "Keep pushing forward," Bonner yelled, his voice raw with emotion. "We fight for Cooper. We fight for all of us." The team rallied behind him, their resolve strengthened by the loss. With a renewed sense of purpose, they pushed deeper into the heart of the alien warship, facing wave after wave of alien soldiers and eye-controlled defenses. The further they advanced, the more they realized how much the aliens had underestimated humanity. The tide was turning. Bonner's mind raced as they neared the central core of the ship. The battle wasn't over yet, but they were closer than ever to victory. The warship trembled under the onslaught of their attacks, the hull beginning to crack and groan as the humans tore through its defenses. Outside the warship, in the cold, silent void of space, the human ships, small but powerful, prepared for the final strike. They had disabled the ship's shields, leaving it vulnerable to orbital bombardment. Bonner could feel the tension building as the final phase of the operation began. The battle had already cost them dearly, but it was a battle that would go down in history. This was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a declaration of humanity's strength. They were no longer the underdogs. They were the predators. "Prepare for the final blow," Bonner muttered, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding him. "This ends today." The moment of reckoning had arrived. As the humans made their final push toward the heart of the warship, they knew that victory was within their grasp. The aliens had made their mistake. They had underestimated the humans. Now, they would pay the price. But for Bonner and his team, there was no turning back. This was their moment. This was their revenge. General Siron stood in the command center of his flagship warship, his piercing alien eyes fixed on the holographic display in front of him. The image flickered with signals from his fleet, but it was the one signal he had been dreading that caught his attention. The human prisoners had escaped. How could this happen? Siron muttered under his breath, frustration lacing his voice. His AI assistant, a sleek and intelligent entity known as Zinfar, responded in a calm, emotionless tone. "General, the prisoners have breached our lower-level security. Their tactics appear to be unorthodox, but highly effective. We underestimated them." Siron clenched his fists. He had thought the humans weak. After all, they had been captured and tortured relentlessly. The aliens had seen them as nothing more than a fragile, primitive species, unable to pose any real threat. But now, as Siron reviewed the data and watched as his own defenses crumbled under the humans' assault, he began to realize the fatal mistake he had made. "They were never weak," Siron said, his voice a low growl of realization. We miscalculated. These humans are not what we thought. Their will to survive is unlike any we've encountered." Zinthar's holographic form flickered as it processed the information. "It seems that these humans possess an unexpected resilience. Their ingenuity is rivaled only by their determination. We have made a grave error." Siron's mind raced as he recalled the torture chambers where he had witnessed the humans breaking under intense pressure. He had believed that their suffering would make them compliant, that they would surrender, begging for mercy. But instead, they had turned that suffering into a weapon, a fuel for their vengeance. The humans were fighting back harder than anything the aliens had anticipated. "Activate all remaining defense systems," Siron ordered, his voice now filled with urgency. "We must stop them before they reach the heart of the ship." Meanwhile, Bonner and his team were making their way through the labyrinthine corridors of the flagship. The massive warship, built to intimidate and crush enemies, was now proving to be their greatest asset. As the humans infiltrated deeper into the heart of the vessel, they discovered something that shocked them all: alien technology, unlike anything they had ever seen. "Looks like we're getting close to their command center," Bonner said, his voice steady but filled with awe as he observed the glowing alien technology around him. "Keep your eyes open. These things are built to kill, but we're smarter than they think." The team nodded, their weapons raised, ready for anything. The interior of the flagship was a maze of shimmering metallic walls and pulsating lights, all connected by a web of advanced tech that seemed to hum with an unnatural energy. Every turn was filled with new challenges, but the humans were prepared. Bonner's team had already disabled several automated defenses, using their human ingenuity and the cloaking devices to slip past AI-controlled turrets and drones. They had learned to use the ship's own technology against itself. The aliens had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt and overcome, and now the ship was crawling with hostile robots, but none of them could match the human soldiers' quick thinking and resourcefulness. "Set the charges here," Bonner said, pointing to the central console that controlled the warship's AI systems. He had a plan to disable the ship's core systems, which would give them the upper hand in the final battle. As his team planted explosives, Bonner kept a watchful eye on the ship's systems. If they could blow the core, they would cripple the entire fleet. But they had to be quick. "Bonner," Henson whispered, his voice tight with concern. "Something's off. The AA seems to be adapting." Bonner frowned, glancing at the digital readouts. "Damn it, they're learning faster than we thought. We need to hurry before they lock us out." Suddenly, a loud alarm blared throughout the ship, signaling that the remaining defenses had been activated. The metallic walls around them seemed to close in as the ship's AI went into full lockdown mode. Robots and drones appeared from every direction, their red lights glowing ominously. The humans had triggered a response that was meant to wipe them out once and for all. "Hold them off," Bonner shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to get those charges set and get out." The team split up, engaging the alien forces in a deadly firefight. Bonner's heart raced as he fired his weapon, taking down several of the robotic drones. Henson and Diaz were already engaging the soldiers who were rushing to defend the core. The atmosphere was tense, and every second felt like a lifetime. But Bonner wasn't about to give up now. They were so close. The charges were set, and the warship's core was only moments away from being completely disabled. As the AI-driven drones advanced, Bonner's mind raced with thoughts of revenge. He thought back to the days of torture, the screams of his comrades, and the endless days of suffering. He could still hear their cries in his mind. But now, he was the one in control. The tables had turned. Just as the situation seemed like it might spiral out of control, an unexpected twist occurred. Bonner's team had successfully hacked into the alien system, allowing them to temporarily shut down the warship's eye. It was a desperate gamble, but it paid off. The drones halted, and the automated defenses went silent. "We've got them," Bonner said, his voice filled with triumph. "Now, let's finish this." The humans pressed forward, now with full access to the warship's central systems. Bonner could feel the weight of his responsibility, but his resolve was stronger than ever. The aliens had underestimated the human spirit, and now they would face the consequences. As the countdown to the final explosion began, Bonner couldn't help but think of the price they had paid. The death of his comrades, the suffering, the pain, it had all led to this moment. And in that moment, as the warship's core began to collapse under the humans' assault, he knew that their fight was far from over. But this was a victory they had earned with blood, sweat, and unwavering determination. Tyron, back in his command center, watched in horror as his prized warship fell to the humans' assault. He had underestimated them. And now, it was too late. The final battle had arrived. The tension in the air was palpable as Bonner and his team prepared for the ultimate confrontation. They had fought their way through the heart of the alien warship, defying every obstacle in their path. But now they stood at the brink of what would be the most intense fight of their lives. General Tyron, the alien commander who had underestimated them, was waiting for them at the final stronghold. As Bonner led his team forward, his heart pounded in his chest. The memories of his fallen comrades, soldiers who had given everything for this moment, drove him forward. He could still hear their voices in his mind, urging him to keep going, to never stop fighting. This victory would be for them. The corridor ahead was dark and ominous, but Bonner and his team didn't hesitate. They had come too far to turn back now. The path was lined with alien technology, massive glowing structures, metallic walls that pulsed with energy, and the ever-present hum of the warship's AI systems. The walls seemed to close in on them, but they pressed forward, determined. Finally, they'd reached the control room, where General Tyron stood waiting, flanked by his most advanced AI drones and security robots. Tyron's expression was one of calm confidence, but his eyes flickered with the slightest hint of doubt. He knew the humans had managed to breach every layer of defense so far, but this was the final line. Here, in the heart of his command center, he was ready to crush them once and for all. "Bonner." Tyron's voice echoed through the room, cold and menacing. You've done well to come this far, but this is where your journey ends. Bonner stood tall, his expression unwavering. He had no fear in his heart. You should have killed me when you had the chance, Tyron. Now you'll pay the price for underestimating humanity. The tension between them crackled like electricity. Both sides were ready to fight to the death. Xiron activated the warship's defense systems, and the room came alive with a series of whirring sounds. Massive AI-controlled drones hovered above, and robotic soldiers lined the walls, their weapons aimed at Bonner and his team. The lights flickered, and the atmosphere became thick with anticipation. Without warning, the first wave of drones surged forward, firing their weapons at the humans. But Bonner and his team were ready. They moved with precision, using their advanced cloaking devices to slip in and out of sight, avoiding the barrage of laser fire. The drones had no idea what was happening. They were too slow, too predictable. Bonner's voice rang out over the chaos. Team, fall back to the left. Use the AI drones as cover. With his orders, the humans fell into formation, using the alien drones as shields to deflect incoming fire. They moved quickly, coordinating their attacks with deadly accuracy. The AI drones had the firepower, but they lacked the adaptability and cunning of the humans. They fell one by one as Bonner's team picked them off, using the ship's environment to their advantage. Tyron watched in horror as his elite forces were overwhelmed. The humans were like shadows, slipping in and out of the shadows with every move. He activated the ship's internal defense systems, sending powerful energy blasts through the floor, hoping to catch the humans off guard. But Bonner was ready for that too. He had anticipated Tyron's every move. Deploy EMP devices, Bonner shouted. The humans released a series of electromagnetic pulses, shutting down Tyron's AI-controlled weapons in an instant. The entire room went silent for a split second before the sounds of heavy combat resumed. Now, with the advantage on their side, Bonner's team pressed forward. They fought their way toward Tyron, determined to end this once and for all. But Tyron was not easily defeated. He activated his personal armor, an advanced suit that amplified his strength and speed to superhuman levels. He was a formidable opponent, and he wasn't about to let the humans win. You may have destroyed my drones, Tyron sneered, but you're not prepared for me. Tyron launched himself at Bonner with incredible speed, his massive weapon crackling with energy. The two clashed in the center of the room, their weapons sparking as they collided. Bonner was fast, but Tyron's strength was overwhelming. For a moment, it seemed as though the alien commander might actually have the upper hand. But Bonner wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for something greater: his fallen comrades, his people, and the future of humanity. With a surge of strength and determination, Bonner shoved Tyron back, using the alien's own momentum against him. The force of the push sent Tyron flying backward, crashing into one of the control panels. Tyron's eyes blazed with fury as he stood up, his armor smoking from the impact. You are strong, human, but your strength is nothing compared to the power of the galaxy's greatest warriors. Bonner wiped the blood from his lip, his eyes cold with resolve. Maybe, but I'm not fighting alone. With those words, Bonner's team sprang into action once more, using their superior tactics and teamwork to overwhelm Tyron. They launched a coordinated attack, distracting him long enough for Bonner to land the final blow. With a precise strike, Bonner pierced Tyron's armor, sending a surge of electricity through the alien commander's body. Tyron staggered back, his body twitching as the electricity coursed through him. He let out a guttural scream as he collapsed to the ground, defeated at last. Bonner stood over him, panting heavily. It's over, Tyron. Humanity is not your enemy. We just want to be left alone. Tyron, struggling to breathe, managed to croak out one last line. You will regret this. Bonner didn't answer. Instead, he activated the warship's self-destruct sequence. The countdown began, and Bonner turned to his team, motioning for them to retreat. Let's go. We're done here. As they made their way back to the escape pods, Bonner couldn't shake the feeling that this victory wasn't just for them. It was for every human who had ever suffered at the hands of the aliens. It was a victory born from pain, from loss, and from the unwavering human spirit. The countdown continued in the background, and as Bonner and his team escaped the warship, they watched as the massive vessel erupted into a fiery explosion. It was a sight they would never forget. Back on Earth, Bonner sent a final message to the rest of the galaxy, one that would be heard across the stars. Humans are not to be underestimated. We fight for each other, and we will never surrender. Torturing us was your mistake. Never make that mistake again. As the message was transmitted, Bonner knew this was just the beginning. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven one thing: they would never be broken. And as the human ships soared into the stars, Bonner's heart swelled with pride. The human spirit had triumphed once more. The aftermath of the battle was both quiet and loud at the same time. As the remnants of the alien warship floated in the distance, consumed by flames, Bonner and his team made their way back to their ship. The once mighty and threatening alien fleet was now scattered and defeated. There was no more pursuit. The humans had emerged victorious, and the universe would never be the same. As their ship zoomed through the vast expanse of space, Bonner couldn't help but reflect on everything that had happened. The long days of torment and torture, the unimaginable suffering, and the relentless pressure from the aliens, all of it had brought them to this moment. The human spirit, broken time and time again, had not only endured, but had emerged stronger than ever. The feeling of pride surged through Bonner's chest as he thought about his fallen comrades, the soldiers who had given everything for this victory. Their names would not be forgotten. This was their legacy. The ship continued its journey back to Earth, passing through space with a quiet sense of relief. The war zone, with its danger and chaos, was far behind them now. The humans were safe, at least for the moment. But Bonner knew this peace wouldn't last forever. The universe was vast, and there were always more threats waiting in the shadows. Still, the message had been made clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The aliens had learned that lesson the hard way. Bonner looked out at the stars, his thoughts interrupted by a voice crackling through the ship's communication system. "Bonner, come in." It was the captain of the ship, giving him an update on their status. "All systems are functioning normally, and we've successfully avoided any further alien forces. We should be home soon." Bonner nodded, even though no one could see him. "Good. Keep me updated. We'll be there soon." His thoughts returned to the message they had sent across the galaxy. The aliens would be left to rethink their approach to humanity. No longer could they look down on Earth as a weak, insignificant planet. No longer could they mock the humans who had been imprisoned and tortured. They had witnessed the resilience of humanity firsthand, and they had learned that humans could be pushed only so far before they fought back with everything they had. But it wasn't just about revenge. It was about proving something much greater, about showing the galaxy that humanity's strength was not defined by the size of their weapons or the might of their technology. It was defined by the strength of their hearts, their will to survive, and their unbreakable spirit. Humans didn't fight to dominate. They fought to protect what mattered most to them: their people, their families, and their way of life. That was what made them different from the cold, calculating alien forces they had fought. And that was why they would never be defeated. As they neared Earth, Bonner's mind continued to race. What would the people of Earth think when they learned of the victory? Would they understand the full scope of what had been accomplished? Would they realize that this was not just a victory for Bonner and his team, but for all of humanity? He couldn't wait to return home, to see his loved ones, to feel the comforting embrace of Earth once again. But even then, he knew that the journey was far from over. Humanity had just begun to show the universe what it was capable of. The aliens may have underestimated them this time, but the next encounter would be different. Humanity had learned from this battle, had adapted and evolved. They would be ready for whatever came next. The fight wasn't just for survival anymore. It was for the very soul of the human race. The communication system crackled again. This time, it was Bonner's voice that came through the speakers. "Everyone, gather in the command center. We've made it this far, but I want to make sure we all understand what comes next. Our victory here isn't the end. It's just the beginning." The team quickly assembled, the familiar faces of the soldiers who had fought alongside him. They had lost so many, but they had gained so much more. They had gained the respect of the galaxy, and more importantly, they had gained a new sense of purpose. Together, they had proved that no matter how big the threat, no matter how powerful the enemy, humanity would stand tall and fight back. As they stood in the command center, Bonner turned to face them. His eyes were filled with both pride and sorrow. "We've lost friends, brothers, and sisters along the way. But their sacrifice was not in vain. Today, we've shown the universe that humans are not to be messed with. Today, we've shown that no matter the odds, no matter the obstacles, we will survive." A soldier, a close friend who had fought by Bonner's side from the beginning, stepped forward. "We fought for each other. We fought for the ones we lost. And we fought for our future. This victory, it's for them. For all of us." The room fell silent for a moment, as everyone reflected on the weight of their words. This wasn't just a military victory. This was a victory for every human who had ever been oppressed, every human who had ever been underestimated, every human who had ever fought to survive against impossible odds. Bonner took a deep breath, his voice steady and resolute. "I know the battle is over, but our fight for survival continues. This victory today was not just for us. It was for every human out there. Every child who will one day look to the stars with hope in their hearts. We will never stop fighting for them. We will never let our guard down." As the ship began its descent toward Earth, Bonner felt a weight lift off his shoulders. They were finally home. But the victory didn't feel like the end. It felt like a new beginning. Humanity had proven that it would never back down. It had earned its place among the stars, and the galaxy would now have to reckon with that. When the ship finally touched down on Earth, the team was greeted with cheers and applause. The world had been watching, and humanity had shown them exactly what they were capable of. The message was clear. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was strong. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Bonner stepped off the ship, his eyes scanning the crowd. He could see the pride in their faces, the recognition that humanity had not only survived, but had triumphed. He knew that the victory was more than just military. It was a statement to the galaxy. Humanity was here to stay. And as Bonner stood there, watching the horizon stretch out before him, he knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning. The universe had seen the strength of humanity, and it had learned that humans were not to be underestimated. They would never forget the legacy of this victory. "Humans are not weak," Bonner said, his voice echoing through the crowd. "If anyone thought we were, they now know the truth. This is just the beginning." With those words, Bonner and his team stood tall, ready to face whatever challenges the future would bring. They had proven themselves to the galaxy, and in doing so, they had secured humanity's place among the stars. The future was bright, and humanity's legacy had only just begun.